access to our time zone. So welcome to January 25th, first of the 2024 FoodOn Curation meetings. And got a couple of things to talk about right off the bat. So just to say to our new call people, Felix, I don't know, have you actually introduced yourself on the FoodOn yet?
I think I did a while ago, and I did not really attend the meetings in between, but I can introduce myself again.
Sure.
Hi everyone. I'm Felix, and I'm working for the Dutch National Institute of Health and Environment, working in the Healthy Lifestyle Division, and I'm currently doing research on or combining the data sets we have available at the National Institute about food, so food safety, nutrition, etc., and try to combine them in a knowledge graph using maybe FoodOn, or probably using FoodOn as one of the ontologies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to learn more about FoodOn and how to use it, and getting to know FoodOn really.
Great. And likewise, happy to suck up all of the vocabulary requirements you guys need around nutrition, food safety. Just as a side, last summer there was a fellow from Ginnigan doing a presentation at Sherbrooke about food safety. If you didn't catch that, I can send it to you. Might be relevant too.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So the thing I wanted to talk about first off, that's in the agenda, and you guys can add stuff whenever you want. I'll share screen. This. Did have issues as projects be backed up with FoodOn about over website documentation. This is really saying the FoodOn website needs a revamp. So what I'm really inviting all of our FoodOn curators to do is to say why this site is bad, how to make it better. And it's not, the initial write-up was pitched at ontologists per se, rather than say data scientists and other folks who don't know how to do that. There's a bit of catering to people who need to know a little bit more about the technology. So how to actually extract terms from FoodOn in these different ways. But the other area is like trying to introduce folks to the basics of ontology. And that's sort of like a 101 general introduction to ontology. Then we dive right away into these facets as well, that basically dated from Manuel's. And all of this is necessary, but I'm not sure that it's organized to attract a different kinds of user. So what I increasingly find is that, well, this kind of a presentation is all right, just kind of showing the positioning of FoodOn as a vocabulary in global boundary, and a little bit of detail how ontologies structure things. This homepage kind of goes on and on and on. And so I can see that hierarchy of pages and content could be changed. And the thing that's on my mind is that we've got these issues that each often take a topic. And it seems to me they could all be organized, or not all of them, but some of them, especially if people champion them they could be organized into sections of the FoodOn website to actually explain that content. And so this edible versus inedible is a prime example of that. We could have a section on the FoodOn website that talks about food hazards and just starting off with the basics of what kinds of hazards there are and then how food preparation. There's so many different food preparation steps that actually take hazardous food and make it edible. So what I was happy to see is that various of our curators chimed in on this topic and have led, at the very least, to some change in the vocabulary here. Now, none of these folks are able to make it today, so I'm going to wait on discussing this in more detail until they can show, maybe in 2 weeks. But, example, replacing uneatable and eatable with unpalatable and palatable is just perfect. Taking a closer look at hazardous food material and maybe avoiding this word edible. So anyway, a page on FoodOn could actually tackle this topic. So I was going to ask of our food curation group is that each person could champion a particular subject and actually be able to go into the FoodOn website and create a new menu item, or I can set up a shell page, but then they can take on translating the discussion that's happening on issues or into like a single design diagram to keep up to date and have all of this talk just digested into the decisions behind the vocabulary. So does that sound good? It invites volunteers who say, I want to champion this particular topic on the FoodOn website. So that's, just keep that in mind as we cruise through the things. Okay, any other comments about that? Do any of you know WordPerfect? Not WordPerfect, WordPress as a website editing tool? If not, then I could run through a little lesson on that. Not right now, but probably next week, 2 weeks from now. That's what I'll do. Okay, because it's the easiest editor aside from getting the menu system set up for web page content. It's the easiest editor I've seen. And when it comes to just section title content, here's a picture. Okay. So to and I'm gonna, as I say, I'll move this discussion to 2 weeks from now. So in FoodOn, what we would turn to then is just looking at the incoming issues and trying to talk through some. So I'm just going to go up and down the list. Yep, this is just a quick item. Somebody spotted that although we may issue a FoodOn release, we're not always remembering to increase the version date. FoodOn will be switching to a new build environment, ODK, which is sort of an Oval Foundry sponsored script for building ontologies and with automatic function. So, I'm going to wait on the new FoodOn release until we do the animal template, which sounds like could even happen tomorrow. I is poised to get the final version. Okay, so I don't think we've discussed this issue. I don't remember. I don't think so. Are any of you, do any of you have knowledge about intravenous injection of food nutrients in a sort of clinical setting? That's who I need to give feedback on this, both enteral via tube feeding and then injection feeding. This could be as well a particular separate page on the FoodOn website talking about this nutrient administration pathways. So, okay, so I didn't expect that any of you would have personal experience in all of this, but if you know somebody who does, it would be great to have a drill of this. Whenever these diagrams are showing um, the only terms that actually exist are these ones with the IDs below. The rest have to be created in order to offer up this model of nutrition. So, but I think it's important for FoodOn at least to do this, present this vocabulary, organize it. It's always a case in Noble Founder. If you're looking at a particular topic, you'll find a few terms in one place. Go, gene ontology has been formative there. Then not necessarily any biological processes. Defined. So, okay, anyway, if you know if anybody can help, that would be great to get that growth. Okay, the next project here is one that also we need magazine, the FoodX to expertise on. This is a pretty key hierarchy that needs work, and Anisha, I'll turn back to it next week. We're basically trying to harmonize the EFSA terminology for characteristics of food, and also keep in mind the FDA and other systems also have definitions, but these definitions oscillate between saying that this is a characteristic of something to saying this is actually a material entity with a characteristic. And we have to sort out that distinction and fit it into FoodOn with pre-confused terms. So, sometimes they're mentioning processes as well. That's a project. It's kind of, you have to tackle it turn by turn. And we have a diagram to back it up. Right, there's a link to the diagrams. Right, for future reference here. I haven't popped that in. Let's check. Oops. Oh, characteristics. Actually, this is not the right one. Just a sec. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this is okay. There's a couple of diagrams, but this is the one that's trying to handle law and then terms like processed or unprocessed. The material things versus the qualities. And obviously in a bit of an undigested form there. So actually, I was just going to ask Felix, do you deal with EFSA nomenclature at all, or is most of your nomenclature coming from in the existing databases? Is it coming from other places?
I think Ido can answer this question better.
Okay.
Could you repeat it one more time?
The nomenclature, the vocabulary that you've encountered, is it that's food X2? Do you run into that nomenclature when you're looking at food samples and things?
It's mainly Langwell, but it's also matched towards FoodX, but I mainly looked into Langwell till now.
Okay, so the Langwell, so the process terms, and then the codes that Eurofur uses or recommends in Langwell to describe food samples. Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Did I make the point to you already that FoodOn has pretty much all of those Langwell codes in it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, this is a little bit of a rethink of that territory. Langwell has a lot of processes, but it doesn't distinguish characteristic from the food material, as I recall.
I'm pretty sure it's also matched towards FoodX.
Okay. Right now, TO2 or Transform On is Magali's project. Have you heard of that one? Okay. So at the moment, she's trying to do a job of mapping to FoodX2, and we were considering using Transform On as a vehicle to map from FoodOn to FoodX2. But now this year, an objective is to do the mapping directly. So I don't know if that's an issue listed as an issue. Don't think so. Right. We were just kind of waiting on starting the FoodX2 mapping to make sure we had the animal template and the beginning of the plant template in place first in order to position FoodX2 items within FoodOn better. Okay. One other approach is Rhiannon was tasked there are two. Yeah, there are three tasks that Rhiannon had on her plate, but she's off on that leave. So I am wondering if we could talk about these and maybe have somebody take over a little bit of work. So the first one is dairy food products and the distinction between milk. And organizing it better. I haven't looked at this in a while. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we left it off a couple of years ago. Let's check out this. Right. So the question is, how can we accommodate different definitions of milk? And how do we avoid the impression of being biased against one nomenclature system? So the first question in all of this is, how do we talk about plant products that are called milk, like soya milk and almond milk and oat milk, in parallel with these mammalian milk derived products. I think that must come up here. At the moment, there is this non-dairy milk product category. So there's a bit of material to chew through here. I've forgotten how long this document is. So maybe I can ask Jenny, Felix, how sensitive are your communities to this notion of what milk is called? Do you run into that issue on the plant side versus the mammalian side?
I know it is politicized in the Netherlands, but I'm not really sure how the community is within the institution itself. But at some point there was here a discussion whether it should be allowed to call it milk or plant-based drink.
Mm-hmm.
I think now it is in the supermarket plant-based drink, soy drink, not milk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, well that's
or no, drink, not milk. So soy drink instead of milk.
You reminded me of one exercise I do occasionally to try to solve problems like this. Ngram. Have you guys used this Google Ngram thing? This basically traces the usage of words in Google over time in literature and in documents they find. So soy milk, soy drink, milk. Right. So, okay. So these things are popular. Almond milk is still popular, but now there's a little dip there. So there's little dips that are probably referencing the change 2000. Oops. The change in use. And yet soy drink and almond drink are flatlined. So beverage, is that a better word? Or is it that soy drink and almond drink?
I think there's it's in Dutch it's spelled differently. So now I'm trying to do the same
Okay.
here with the Dutch.
So the drinks are low. Drink. Put them and separate them out to see. And then they might be called beverage too. Those are flatlined with reference to almond milk and soy milk. So I'm just going to carve those off and see what the trends are. Soy beverage. So it's kind of hard to tell any trend there.
Maybe you can try soja drink.
Which one?
Soja drink.
I'm not hearing my nouns very well. So what drink? Oh, drink.
Soja drink, maybe. Not soy, but soja? Soja, I don't know. Soja, I think.
Soya.
No, with J.
Sorry, I can't hear very well. You want to spell it out in the chat? Soya.
So yeah, no, but I think also
course.
soja is very common.
Right, of course.
But I tried to it does not translate into Dutch. It's only the English vocabulary, I think.
I'm wondering, soy drink, why doesn't it show you? It's not found? What do you mean not found? Soybean. Okay, well, it's not quite the answer I was hoping Google would, hands down say we should switch to soy beverage and almond beverage.
But maybe it's only a Dutch thing. That's also possible.
This suggests a trend downward on almond and soy milk, both. So let's just see. Beverage is not even on. No. Okay, I don't know what else. But anyway, so back to FoodOn. it sounds like that's a safe move to be switching to beverage for all of the non-mammalian subjects. Okay, so we had one other thing. We still have a relationship that was attaching artificial and real milk. Soy, vanilla extracts. And that relationship is as food analog, something like that. And what we were trying to do is attach like things so that people could substitute them in recipes and know just by the relationship what other foods to consult as a swap in. But so there was a bit of to and fro about what we should even call that, because if you go to the section of FoodOn where the word substitute is used, oh, I see it. I'm sharing this. You search for imitation. There's all sorts of imitation things when it comes to milk. We get into milk beverage analog, and that was the term we settled on. That analog would be the most politically neutral term. So there's a bunch of there's this relationship that we were just toying with to connect foods of different kinds to substitutes that we would attach between foods. And so then the question was, well, can we use that relationship to attach between soya milk and mammalian milk, since the role of the food seemed to be kind of the same for some people, but we ran into objections that, for example, some communities don't want this notion of an analog. Anyway, what I'm winding around to is good to run by you guys, whether a different approach, which is to say that something has a milk-like quality to it, or a quality that is like all this imitation, possible relationships, so a vanilla quality, that we just attach both artificial and natural vanilla to have vanilla quality. And that's how people can find similar things. Now, maybe that's still sounds a little ridiculous. We're trying to break down, say, red meat to have a certain quality, and then you can go look for products that are not imitation meat, but rather vegetarian equivalents that have been manufactured, and then you would say that has a meat quality without saying it's actually meat. So I'm running that idea by you guys now. And so hand up, go for it. Can't hear you. Oh, unmute. Yeah, right. There. No, still can't hear you. Still nothing. So Hmm. Maybe English, right? Oh, British is still used by a lot more. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, well, anyway, it sounds like we should move for, um, we should move to be using beverage and then use the synonyms to handle soy milk and so. This is the discussion about the vanilla taste quality. Getting right, Ido. Can you can keep on like speaking up here and there if you want to test your audio and finally get a word in. Otherwise, we may be reduced to chat. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the point about artificial and natural vanilla being chemically practically identical, um, which leaves it in, which maybe enables this different approach there. Maybe you guys know, is vanilla just one molecule or is it a family of different molecules together that give it that taste? I can't remember. Okay, vanilla. Right. So in the case of vanilla, you could make the connection that they both have the same chemical ingredient. But vanilla is made up of many other compounds. Right? Okay, so uh, so so that puts one back to knowing that the chemical composition of artificial is varied. Um, still collect them somehow as a chemical grouping possibilities. Yeah. So Ido, the question comes then, would we call them drinks or would we make that sound a little bit more formal to use the word beverages, because that was the previous discussion was kind of leaning towards using the word beverage. And right now, FoodOn oscillates between beverage and drink. So we have beverage food product, a whole bunch of distinctions that basically came in from the Siren food product database. So um, we wouldn't have thought these up ourselves. We're just converting them. Right. So the catch is we haven't renamed a number of these things into. There's still the use of the word drink. So there's the possibility of changing the names of the terms here to beverage, just to be consistent where it says milk-based beverage. So I say, oops. Just let's so say we should be more consistent and actually identify and change the labels to beverage from milk. Because otherwise we're going to end the terminology crisscross. And then so actually this doesn't look like such a big problem. These results are being repeated down here. So actually, in terms of protege, the drink to beverage switch is just here. So that's good. So this is an example of a task that somebody could take on to manually edit FoodOn. So let's get into that a little bit. Where are these terms? There's the FoodOn edit file, which has a number of terms, but most of the products are in this import file called FoodOn product import. And it's just a static file. It isn't being generated by a robot or any other technology. It's just an output. So that means you can go in and actually edit these title labels directly and save FoodOn in a branch. Rename this flow. Milk-based beverage. Make that name change, hit OK, and then commit. Now let me just go look on my branch here. FoodOn. Let's see if I have some commits I need to make here. Yeah, I've got a couple of names that I've already done, so I don't want to mess them up. I'm going to just commit these guys to master because we're doing some quick changes. So I'll just mention my deprecation. For changes to FoodOn directly that you folks are doing, if you're volunteering into this line of the business, we would have you create a new branch. So for example, in this case, it's drink to beverage. And we create a branch here. Now, having done that in GitHub desktop, I can now save this change that I just did. So save, Protege knows to save that change in this import file where all these food products are sitting, most of them. And now when I look in GitHub, it's reporting the change here in the label, and I can commit that in and then publish it. So in terms of FoodOn curation, if you go down this route and you find this is the easier kind of edit because it's straight to an AL file. It's not to the robot table. It's holding various kinds of terms. All right, so I'm just going to go through this exercise, a couple of the other terms that we needed to change. So there's the change. Change that to milk-based beverage. So I guess to Jenny, Felix, and Ido, have you guys played around with GitHub at all in your line of work? And Felix has, okay. So we're using GitHub to edit text files rather than software. Okay. That one, and then milk derivative-based beverage. So as we're doing this renaming, one wanted to hang on to the previous name, you would add a synonym, an exact synonym annotation. So up here in our list of annotations, which mention are things which don't have any logical consequence, no reasoning. You can add an exact synonym, and then you could echo the old name here, except these particular names have got so many little conditionals that, qualifiers, that really synonymy isn't really doing anything for us here. But in text mining, where you would want synonym is like, instead of milk beverage, you'd have a synonym for milk beverage to be milk drink, and milk-based beverage, milk-based drink. I guess that would actually be a useful synonym. So I'm going to actually do that for these two. So it's all mainly for text mining, but also when people are entering into a search engine for ontology terms will find this. It is this. Other things to specify language. Just the last note on that is I am looking at this ontology classes window, and when I get the classes view, that gives me these sidebars that list the annotations in Protege. So the classes view, when you open up Protege, will start with owl thing and drill down to whatever area. But if you're looking at, often when you open up Protege, you'll get a different view. You'll get something that looks like yeah, actually, my Protege view is a little bit messed up at the moment. It's actually showing these views. Here I am trying to demonstrate how to get yourself a better view when my views all have this better view. So by default, you might get an entities view, and the entities view doesn't show anything more than this window here. It won't show these other two windows. So you actually have to go to a classes view to see, usually, to see annotations and description. And that's the only way it's easy to actually edit those. So clicking on the search result there gets me to the info on this term, and that's where I can add annotations. So I can add that exact same. Did I already have that one? Good. So, right. So here we have two terms, milk-based beverage with no added sugar, one with energy reduced. So these are actually, this isn't an exact synonym of milk-based drink. Milk-based drink is actually a broader synonym. So I'm actually going to use the broad synonym. In other words, there are several things milk-based drink may refer to, and this is one of them. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to add that synonym to this one as well. So that would land users with both these search results. Okay, so I'm saving Protégé now, and that means all the changes I just made will show up here in the product import. Little extra curveball here. When I add annotations, those annotations can occur in the product import file. And just to be fairly clear here, if I go to active annotation and look at the ontology imports tab, there's a whole bunch of import files, and one of them will be the product type import. So this is the line that's actually bringing in this other file into the FoodOn edit. So, but the FoodOn edit file itself, the master file, which you can see over here, window, is also a place that end up, and we can store edits in. So FoodOn edit really combines all those imports, but it also has its own statements that can be put toward any particular term. And when I just added those broad and narrow synonyms, it added them not to the import file, to the main FoodOn file. The reason I know that is because when I did my edit, it says there are two changed files here, the FoodOn edit one and the product. And here's the FoodOn edit, and here's the broad synonym being added to that term. And milk-based drink annotation here. So I still have it as exact synonym hanging out here. And I think that's a little bit of a mistake, so I'm going to find out where that is. Let's find out. Search for it. Milk derivative based beverage, and I gave it and accidentally gave it a milk based drink synonym. So I'm taking that one out, resaving. Going back to this, now there are just two broad synonyms added. That's intentional, but they're in the wrong file. I actually want to just keep all of this info on the products in the import file for products. So my little extra step that I have to do here is to go change the location where that synonym is. So in these other ones, Protégé is saying in light gray, input on product import, those statements. And this one too, by right clicking, I have to move that axiom, as they call it, or statement, into the FoodOn product import file. And this is the menu of all of the imports that are currently happening. So just move that synonym there. Just moving this one too to be along with the other ones. And now saving, that removes the changes from the other edit main file, and now make sure they're just in the room. So there's name change and then the synonyms. Okay, I'm publishing this branch. And that's good. And now I can branch. Maybe there's a command that you could actually. Oh, I see. I haven't committed it yet. Okay. Milk. Milk. Change. Okay, I'm committing that. I have to check the file that I want committed. Push origin. So now it's going up to the FoodOn website, and they're going to say I can make a pull request. So I'm just going to finish this off. We're at the end of the hour here. Is this useful to you guys? You new guys? Okay, good. So over on the FoodOn GitHub. Having just made this a branch, there's now a drink to beverage branch, which will have the change that I just made. Not in any of these files, but in the source folder, which is where we're doing the work down in the source ontology folder. It will have made a change to the import file we were just working on, the FoodOn product import. So there's this change waiting to be merged into the main branch. But the next step is to create a pull request. So I'm going to actually preview and make this pull request. And opening the pull request. I'm just making a pull request for just one term change, but you can bundle several. So once that's made, then it shows up on the pull requests list. And so the milk drink to beverage change one. Generally, somebody like me would review that change if it was coming in from one of our curators. And in GitHub tells you which, just the same view as the local Git view will show me what files were changed in this. And I happen to have complete confidence that that's all very good. It was just one commit. If you're making several changes over a week and that bundle them in a pull request, then they'll all show up here. So I'm quite happy to approve this, which is the merging operation. And I'll confirm the merge. And now we can either let this branch kick around on the left site, but such a simple change. No reason to keep it, so now I'm going to delete it. So that change is now included. Okay, any questions about that process? Once you step up to actually volunteering to edit FoodOn terms directly, then that's the process we'll be going through on the commit side and making the pull request, and then I'll take over whatever other characters. So I'd like to say that was a small piece of improvement on a big, long discussion. What I'll do is take the, I'll review this document and then summarize decisions after all these years in the call log for that particular. So I think mainly it's to make a decision about the beverage thing, which we didn't quite get to last time. And I'll go take a look at any other repercussions of that. But the actual work to do the change in the hierarchy and changing labels would be great to train you guys up on. Some of you a new chef knows how to do this stuff already. And by Bloomberg, who occasionally can make our curation meetings, knows how to do the bread. And but he's tasked with some other stuff right now. So between me and Lucia, we can help it. Okay. Great. Well, then we'll see you in 2 weeks. And I think we'll circle back to that other discussion about.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much for the live demo, Damien.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would love to volunteer.
Okay, great. All right. Ciao.
Ciao. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Felix. Bye, Aido.